Let's bring on Etan Thomas. Etan, first of all, we apologize for keeping you waiting. A lot of
people are fired up.
A lot of caller participation today, as you might expect.
Goodness, Paulie was out there arguing with people. What was going on up there?
It's getting heated today. I guess let's start with just your overall assessment of what you saw last night.
Well, it was tough. It started off pretty good. We were hanging in there. There are maybe, always try to look at some kind of positives that you could take away. Chris Bell did play well. He had a good game. Knocked down about 4 threes. He was actually above 500 in threes. I think he was maybe 4 for 7, right? I'm still not all the way sold on what should happen as far as him coming off the bench, but you can't argue with the stats. I mean, I think he scored double digits, 3 or 4 games, and I don't know how long he's been coming off the bench, but he's played well. And that's a positive. He was knocking down shots. He was looking active. It looked like he wasn't worried about what was going to happen. Like when he was coming out the game or looking over his shoulder, he was just playing. So if he could somehow transform that into a starting role and not be worried about it and just play, and if you miss a shot, you miss a shot. You make a shot, you make a shot. That would probably be a lot better. But yeah, no, the game was tough. It was a tough game because what worked against Boston College didn't work against Louisville. And that was a lot of JJ driving from the top of the key, from pick and roll and everything like that. That wasn't working against Louisville. Louisville scouted that, and they didn't allow that to happen. So that in itself was very difficult. And then they was knocking down threes from everywhere. I mean, Louisville was just, I know they shoot at a high volume, but good Lord, that first half especially, they was just firing it from everywhere. So it was a tough game. That's all you can say. It was a tough game.
Etan, let me ask you something. Like, I'm apparently, to all of our listeners, I'm stupid. And I watch Syracuse's offense, and everybody seems to think it's just players standing around. You've played at the highest level. What is Syracuse's offense to you? Like, is it just guys sitting around? Is it what do you make of their offense?
Well, people gotta understand that sometimes you have to tip your hat to the team that you're playing against, to your opponent, and say that they had a good game plan. Obviously, they watched JJ drive from all over the place and win the game for us against Boston College, so they wasn't going to allow him to do the same thing. So they didn't allow him to do it. Now our next options are usually going inside. And they made it difficult for that. They was pushing their big guys out. Jair played well, knocked down a couple of jumpers. He, was playing hard the entire time. But, Eddie was catching the ball a little bit further out than he kind of was able to do against Boston College. I mean, they scouted. That's what good teams do. They scout. So what works before shouldn't work again. When you come against a good team, you're going to have to do something else. And so there's definitely a strategy there. I mean, I'm someone who's been, kind of just yelling to keep playing inside out, but it was difficult to do that against Louisville. So sometimes you got to just tip your hat to them. I don't think it's necessarily that there is no game plan or there is no offense or you're just standing around. It's not that. It's that what we're trying to do wasn't working. So then you have to go to something else.
When I was watching last night, it seemed early on they were getting good looks. Chapa got good looks. JJ got to the basket early. They just weren't going.
Yeah, we got to be able to knock down shots, to be honest with you. And it's just, it's tough. It's tough with a game like that when you lose by that type of a margin and it looks like not much is going right for, I understand the fans being upset. I understand the fans, calling Paulie and fussing at him, because it's understandable for the fans to be upset right now. And that was a tough game. I mean, you had people coming off the bench, Louisville, playing with energy, and it looked like the dome was just quiet after a while. And, I don't know, it was tough. That's all I can say is it was tough.
Well, let me ask you this, Etan. So, I mean, you've heard the criticism. A lot of fans in town are very critical of the job that Red is doing. What is your assessment, I guess, on his job so far? I mean, the way that I kind of look at it, and I think, Paulie, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we feel like it might be too early, to assess, right? Especially this season, given that he didn't have JJ for 7 games. He's been without Donnie for the last 3 games. And, it's the middle of year 2. Where do you kind of stand on evaluating the job that Red's done to this point?
I mean, it's very simple. When you win, the coach looks like a genius. When you lose, everybody's saying we need to fire the coach. That's just what it is. And what Paulie said earlier, that if things turn around, say next year they start off 10-0. I don't want to misquote Paulie. And the next year they start off 10-0, and then they're making a tournament and they're doing great and everything like that. Then everybody's gonna love Red. You're gonna see all the same people, completely change their tunes. And that's what happens. That's how it is. So these next games, I agree, they are definitely winnable games. And then, if those games go well, then you won't hear the, fire Red chants as loud. You'll hear, other things. So that's part of it. We got to win games. That's it. You have to win. Winning, when you lose, this didn't happen right, and this didn't happen right, and everything. They can go down the list of all different things that aren't looking right, and why they're not happy with the offense, why they're not happy with the defense. Or one person saying that he didn't like the way the guys were warming up, he didn't like the facial expressions. There's somebody else talking. You could pick at anything because you lost. You know what I mean? Everybody should wear the same kind of sneakers. Like, everybody's saying all kind of stuff. But when you win, ain't nobody worried about all that.
Last segment, somebody brought up the name Ronnie Cycli, and Paulie said, Ronnie Cycli won't happen anymore, present day, and he even mentioned your name as well. He said maybe Etan Thomas doesn't happen anymore. Take us back, if you could. I know it's hypothetical, obviously, but take us back to 96, 97, you're a freshman, you're behind Otis Hill, you play, I called up the number, 16 minutes per game. At the end of that season, like if that were now, if that were today, would you have come back to Syracuse?
Well, let's ask it properly. Louisville is going to drop $500K in your pocket. How do you say no to that? And would you have stayed?
Well, I was looking to transfer even without all of that. So before any of that happened, I was still thinking that this might not be the place for me. But it worked out. Each situation is different, because another caller said that they're going to have to kind of up the NIL with Syracuse, and that's true. I do agree with that. You have to be competitive with other markets, what other teams will be able to do. If other teams can, it's like a job interview. Your current job can pay you X amount. This job over here can pay you X plus whatever. That's what it is. If they can match it, then you might stay. If not, then you might have to leave. So that aspect of it, I don't know where they get the money from. I don't know where collectives get their donations from. I don't know where anything that happens. I heard one person saying that all of New York will donate. I don't know how that works, but I do think in order to be competitive, in a market where you do have different universities that have a lot of NIL, a lot of their collective has put a massive amount. Yeah, they're going to have a little bit of an advantage. But I wouldn't say that players aren't going to be able to be patient anymore, because for me, I had to be patient playing against Otis Hill, playing behind Otis Hill. I was not going to play in front of Otis Hill. You know what I mean? I was not. I had to learn. I had to get stronger. I had to, take that year, let Otis beat up on me, learn everything that I can from him. And then it was my time, or it was my turn, my time that I could play. I don't think there necessarily won't be players that have to go through that process again, because now when you go to a team, a lot of times the transfers coming in, there are going to be older people ahead of you. A lot of times that's just the way this is going to be. So some players are going to be forced to have to be patient. Now, will they stay? Will they go another place? That's the whole market. But I don't necessarily think that you won't see a player, develop and where they come in a freshman and they're not really playing a lot, and then they grow, and as they keep on maturing and go through the years. I wouldn't say that will never happen again, but things are definitely different. So I definitely understand Paulie's, assertion of that.
I got to ask the follow-up, Etan. You said you were already looking to transfer. What made you stay? What was the determining factor?
Well, a lot of things. Talked a lot to Coach Orr. Talked a lot to my parents. And sometimes you have to take the emotions out of it and just evaluate the situation. Otis was going to be leaving. Now, if Otis was coming back for his 5th COVID year, then I might have transferred. to be honest with you. But Otis was leaving. So, you know what I mean? The situation is different. And you have to, then take it upon yourself to, work hard, be able to, improve on the things that you need to improve on, and then come ready. So that's a big difference. So I understand the landscape is definitely different. I will say that.
Let me ask you this about Syracuse's defense. What is it that it was they're getting? Is it like the chat is they're getting beat down court? What do you see on their defense that's going wrong that they're giving up so many points? That's another thing that's.
Well, definitely transition defense was not very good. You could be honest about that against Louisville. And, they were sprinting to the 3-point line and they were just firing it up. But we've seen different times. I think against Georgetown, the transition defense wasn't very good. That's just something we're going to have to pay attention to and play better defense. But then also in the half court, some of the rotations, they could be better. And you've heard Coach Red talking about it and emphasizing it and what guys need to do, and he's taking guys out if they haven't been playing, good defense and rotating the right way and working on a string and all those different things. But you can't. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Sometimes the defense doesn't look good. That's just what it is. Now I will say, for a little while in the beginning, and we've had spurts where the defense has looked better. I thought Chris Bell played some good defense in the beginning of the game. Talking about ball-on-ball defense, ball-on-man. And I think that there's moments, but we got to just put it all together. But the transition defense, yeah, those scores or those letdowns take the air out of the crowd. You know what I mean? You could just hear it. I'm watching it on TV, so I know being in person, you could just hear the moans of the crowd when, somebody is fast breaking and they shoot a three or they get a fast break, layup or something like that. It's demoralizing. So that's definitely something we got to improve on.
Etan, I just want to let you know that you caught a little shrapnel too.
What'd I do?
Because when I talk about the team, it's I don't know basketball. And Etan clearly did not watch the game.
No, I didn't watch the game. Okay. So the president is telling me that Chris Bell didn't have a good game. You can't have positives from the game of what Chris Bell did. You know what I mean? You can't say that, yeah, he wasn't able to knock down shots before, but now he's knocking down a few shots. You can't look at the positivity of that. I don't know. I understand the fans being upset. I will say that. You know what I mean? And yeah, you could be doom and gloom, and you can say the sky is falling and the program is terrible and all of that, or you can look at the positives and still hang in there and still actually cheer the team on and talk about the things that need to be improved and be able to look at the positives as well. You should be able to do both.
Chris Bell has looked like a better player since he's come off the bench. 4 games off the bench, 3 of them were quality games. And to your point, Etan, it does seem like he's not worried. And he said that he's not worried about coming out of the game anymore because he's not in the game to start. He goes in, he does his job, or he's trying to do his job, and I think maybe that mental shift has certainly helped him. But he's gotten better since coming off the bench.
I'm going to go long. I'm going long again. Someone in the chat wants to know, name some positives last night, Etan.
I just did, Chris Bell.
I thought Carlos played well last night too. He got to the rim. Like I don't get it. Like,
yeah, they made the adjustment in the second half, and they started Carlos instead, and he played hard. Yeah, it's hard. I understand people not wanting to look at any positives when you lose a game like that. I get it. I'm not saying that the fans don't have a reason to be upset. I'm not saying that as well. You know what I mean? But I will say that Chris Bell did have a good game, and you can't say that he didn't and he's not playing better.
All right, Etan. Great stuff. Appreciate you coming on as always. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week.
Sounds good.
All right, Etan Thomas joining us here on the show, and with that, we'll hit a timeout. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.